Continuing our conversation around college baseball, specifically the Gamecocks, get into a few SEC and national notes as well. Mitch Light, kind enough to join us now. He primarily covers college football for The Athletic, but this spring is on the college baseball beat. He joins us now. Appreciate the time, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing quite well. Hope you guys are doing well over there in Columbia.
Yeah, it's been an interesting couple of days, as you might imagine, after the Gamecocks were swept by Georgia, who may well be the hottest team in the country, Mitch. Let me kind of start there, because part of this conversation here in Columbia has to revolve around the fact that Georgia is playing so well. I know when fans see their team fail, they might not always want to give the other guy credit, but from an outsider's perspective, when you're thinking of the Bulldog baseball team right now, what comes to mind?
Great lineup. And, yeah, they are playing – I don't think it's an exaggeration to say they're playing as well as any team in the country. And college baseball is unique, I think, more so than basketball and definitely football. It's sometimes when you play these teams, there's so many ebbs and flows in the 10-week college baseball season in the SEC. Certain teams, because so many freshmen play, because, you know, the good players are typically only there for 3 years, like Phelps, you know, at Georgia, they get better as the season progresses. You can play a team that's missing a weekend starter, and that's a great advantage for you. And unfortunately for South Carolina, they played Georgia at a time when the Bulldogs are peaking. I mean, they've won 2 straight series. They beat Vanderbilt and South Carolina. They scored at least 10 runs in all 6 games. I think I did for my weekly roundup that published on Monday. I think I looked at the average score was like 12-5, and that is just, you know, 2 decent middle-of-the-pack SEC teams in South Carolina and Vanderbilt, and just made them look silly and doing so in Columbia. So, yeah, I mean, I know fans don't like to always give credit to the opposition, but that Georgia team is very, very good. And, you know, Charlie Condon gets all the publicity, but, you know, their leadoff hitter, Collins, is leading the nation in on-base percentage. They just, you know, Wes Johnson's just done a great job with that team this year.
Mitch, I'll ask you what we've asked our audience on Twitter at 1075 The Game, and that is, do you think the Gamecocks are in any danger of missing the NCAA baseball tournament? They had the sweep against Georgia this past weekend. They got to go to Knoxville this weekend, plus whatever happens in Hoover. Do you personally think the South Carolina team can fall out of the playoff picture?
I would be shocked if they don't make it. Okay, let's assume the worst and they lose and get swept in Knoxville, which could happen. I mean, Tennessee, I saw them 3 games in person this week in Nashville. You talk about a Georgia lineup that's good. Tennessee probably has the best lineup, you know, top to bottom in the SEC and probably the country there. But, you know, at 13-17 with their metrics, you know, I looked this up, dating since 2019, the teams that have gone 13-17, South Carolina in 2022 didn't get in, RPI of 69, so that's why they didn't. Georgia in 21, RPI 44, didn't get in. LSU in 21, RPI 19 got in. Alabama in 20 was actually 12-17 and got in with a 36 RPI. And then Florida in 2019, RPI 30 got in. So basically anyone with an RPI over 40 has gotten in at 13-17, which South Carolina obviously will have. And the thing that just separates, you know, when I was looking at when you talk college basketball bubble or whatever, like every team on the bubble, I think it might even be a stretch to say South Carolina's on the bubble, but every team on the bubble has warts or else they wouldn't be there. So what have you done to separate you from other bubble teams? What's the best thing you can do? Have a series win over the number 1 RPI team in the country, probably? Kentucky. They did that. They have a neutral site win over North Carolina. If you look at the RPI today, they will have played the top 6 teams in the RPI, which is incredible. The record versus the top 5, because they haven't played Tennessee yet, is 5-8. Very respectable. So they have done some things at the high end of their resume that will separate them from other so-called bubble teams.
Talking to Mitch Light of The Athletic. Gamecocks at Knoxville this weekend to close out the regular season. Let's go back to the conversation or the point you made. You were at the Vandy UT series this past weekend in Nashville. And Vandy, you know, that win Sunday, that shutout victory, a lot of people said, boy, that's, you know, for a long season, that one could have done a lot for Vandy's chances, but it's the first time Tennessee's been shut out. What did Vandy do right, and how good, in more detail, are the Volunteers?
Yeah, that might have been the most. I'm not, you know, as Elijah knows, I've, you know, been watching Vanderbilt baseball closely for 20 years, and that might have been the most high-pressure regular season game of the Tim Corbin era. And when you factor everything in there. Now, they've made 17 straight NCAA tournaments, regionals, which is the longest active streak. And I think they can set the longest active streak by an SEC team if they make it this year. So you combine the fact that they lost, 8 or 9 straight to the rival Tennessee, and the fact that they needed a win against a good team, the fact that they did it. They just got a great pitching performance from J.D. Thompson, a kid who that was only his third weekend start, who got shelled the weekend before at Georgia. He just mixed his pitches well, had his fastball going. Tennessee, first shutout of the season, they didn't get an extra base hit all game. And then, got great relief from Devin Futrell, who threw 3 shutout innings there. So it was just really good pitching. And Tennessee's lineup is just look at it. Every dude seems to be hitting 350 with 15 home runs. Now it does fall off a little bit at the bottom. They're really struggling trying to find a Tony Vitello quote of the weekend was like, no one has earned the right to be the everyday DH. So it falls off a little bit at the bottom. But one thing about Tennessee is while their ERA, I think, in league play is second, which is obviously very good, they don't have the dominant starter that we've seen from Tennessee in years past, Chase Dollander, some of the elite guys around the league. Now, we've seen Drew Beam for 3 years. He had a great freshman year, but he's given up more hits than innings. In league play, this team has given up more hits than innings, which you wouldn't expect to see from a team like Tennessee, but they don't walk anybody. So that's I think any pitching coach would tell you, if you don't walk people, you're going to put yourself in good position to win. The problem for South Carolina this week, difficult to play in Tennessee, very small park. That's, I'm not taking anything away from Tennessee's hitters. They're all very good, but that's one reason why they have so many home runs. Very small park there. So South Carolina pitchers got to keep the ball in the yard because it can get ugly quickly when you're playing in Knoxville.
And with the SEC tournament coming up, too, obviously the eyes are going to be on teams like Kentucky, A&M, Georgia with how they're playing, Arkansas with that pitching staff being cartoonishly good, and Tennessee's batting order like we've gone over. But is there a team that maybe people aren't talking about that you think has a legit chance to make a run and maybe even go deeper than anticipated once the NCAA tournament starts?
Yeah, Mississippi State seems to be playing very, very well, almost quietly, which is, you wouldn't expect from a program like that. It's well documented. There's post-national championship struggles. Haven't made the tournament the last 2 years, and they got off to a slow start this year. I think they had they lost a midweek series to Austin Peay. And, Mississippi State coaches were ready to, putting the for sale signs on Chris Lemonis' house. But they're playing very well. They're up to 15-2. They've secured their 15-12 in the league. They've secured their spot. They're probably in great position to host. So I was going to say there's not much pressure on them, but there is pressure because they don't want to go one and done because that would hurt their hosting. But they're getting healthier. Their starting pitching has been very good of late there. So Mississippi State, as it gets later in the week, they'll have the fans that come over from Mississippi. So that's a team that might be, among the non-elite that could win this thing.
Mitch, last thing for you. We know 2 schools, Auburn and Mizzou, aren't going to the NCAA tournament. The other 12, there's some degree of either certainty, top 8, bubble, Ole Miss, Florida, maybe the bubble. Carolina fans maybe think they're getting perilously close to that, but do you see 12 or too much to do for UF and Ole Miss?
Yeah, I think between LSU, Ole Miss, and Florida, there's no way all 3 are going to make it. I just don't think the math's going to work out there. I think there's a chance only one could make it. Vanderbilt goes to Kentucky this week. If they get swept there, they're in serious danger. I think they only need 1 win. So I think we'll probably see in the 10 range, maybe 11. But Ole Miss and LSU play each other, so they're going to cancel each other out there. So, that is going to make it for an exciting first couple days in Hoover because there's going to be a lot of pressure on those teams on that first day.
Yeah. I lied. One more thing, football-wise here. Give us Mitch Light's quick SEC assessment of what he most learned after spring football.
That's a good question. I've been so baseball focused. It's as Elijah knows, in my previous lifetime, I was at Athlon Sports, so I was so obsessed with spring practice and the followings and putting out the magazine after that. Between working a little college baseball and college basketball, and then to me, I don't know, it just seems like spring practice, while we are obsessed with college ball, means less and less, especially with so much roster turnover after the portal. So I don't even know how to answer that question. Nothing stood out to me from the SEC.
That's probably fair. I was going to say, I think nothing might be an answer for a lot of us, so that's why I want you to join.
Right.
I want you to join the club. I'm in it. Coach Beamer is in it. A few others. We want a real game, an exhibition game, but a real game in the spring. So help me out with that, like later this summer in some piece you do at the website.
Oh, well, I'll start that. But no, I totally agree. It just seems like spring practice is less significant every year, and then add the portal into it, and you got early enrollee freshmen who you're trying to work in. It's not like teams are very few teams at least are announcing their starting quarterback. It seemed like 10, 15 years ago, a lot of schools would announce their starting quarterback after a competition in the spring. That almost never happens now.
Yeah. It's either that or we go do Lane Kiffin's, elementary school field day thing that they did.
Yeah, that was great too. Yeah.
There's some theater in that, if nothing else. Hey, Mitch, appreciate the time. I'm glad Elijah got you on with y'all's ties to each other up in Nashville. We'll do it again soon, man. Appreciate you.
Anytime. Take care, guys.
You bet. That is Mitch Light of The Athletic. Yeah, he's great. And, again, it's very easy. Mitch Light, like Light.
Yep. Pretty straightforward on Twitter.
Follow along on the Twitters. Recap some of what he had to say about where things are across the SEC when the postgame show continues.